name is Mrs. Ngozi. I'm here to take you on a course, Philosophy of Education and Educational Psychology. Philosophy of Education and Educational Psychology. Last 2 weeks, we were able to look at the meaning of philosophy, the concept of philosophy, the objectives of philosophy, the concept of philosophy of education, and the importance of philosophy of education. We look at the meaning of philosophy, and I said philosophy has meant the pursuit of wisdom. Philosophy is the pursuit of wisdom. Philosophy attempts to answer the fundamental questions about man. It attempts to answer the fundamental questions about man, the nature of man, his relationship with the universe, the nature of reality, the nature of knowledge, the meaning and organization of values, and logical ways of reasoning in terms of educational implications and practices. Philosophy can also be defined as the love of wisdom. It can be defined as the love of wisdom, And then I also explain the concept of philosophy of education. Philosophy of education simply means the application of philosophical method and outlook to education. The application of philosophical method and outlook to education. Philosophy of education means philosophy applied to education. Philosophy applied to education. I hope that is taken. Then today we are going into schools of thought in philosophy of education. Schools of thought in philosophy of education. Schools of thought in philosophy of education. This school here means collection of principles. Collection of principles which some educational thinkers believe should be our educational ideas. I say school here means collection of principles which some educational thinkers believe should be our educational ideas. Some of them have similar ideas about our education. Some of these schools of thought which I'm going to be discussing now have similar ideas about our education. Examples of some of these school of thoughts are Plato, John Dewey, John Locke, Thomas Briggs, and rest of them. When you look at our educational practices, all our educational practices is being based on the thoughts of these scholars in philosophy of education. So let's consider these schools of thought. These schools of thought in philosophy of education, let's consider them one by one. But one of them is idealism. Number one school of thought in philosophy of education is idealism. 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 2, pragmatism. 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 3, existentialism. 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 4, naturalism, from nature, naturalism. 5, realism, realism. And 6, essentialism, essentialism. I go to them again. 1, idealism. 2, pragmatism. 3, existentialism. 4, naturalism. 5, realism. And 6, essentialism. Let's consider number 1, idealism. Idealism, they believe that physical world is temporal. Idealism, they believe that physical world is temporal and unimportant. The physical world we are looking at is temporal and unimportant. They believe that man is essentially a thinker. Idealism believe that man is essentially a thinker, and that education is what that brings out the potentials and abilities of a man to his fullness. So man is a thinker, and man has the capability to think. And what can make the potentials of this thinking to come to the fullness is education, according to Idealists. In the society, they believe that the interest of the society should be considered. Idealists, the people that believe in idealism, are called idealists. The idealists in the society, they believe that interest of the society should be considered more important than the interest of the individual. So what the society consider more important should be considered, not the one of one person is saying. So the provision, according to them, the provision of education should be on the attainment of social good of the individual. They also believe that spiritual world and intellectual world is more important than the physical world. The idealists believe that spiritual world and intellectual world is far, far more important than the physical world. The world we are looking at, I said in the beginning that they believe that physical world is temporal and unimportant. That means they didn't consider they did not attach much importance to physical world, but they attach more importance to spiritual world and the world of intellectual, that is education. And examples of idealists are Plato. We also have Emmanuel. So the idealists, they recommended that the teachers should teach subjects like mathematics, introductory technology, agri-science, health and physical education, and counting, that's accountancy. They recommended teaching of mathematics, that's introductory technology, agri, health, and accounting. Then we move to pragmatism. Pragmatism, they believe in human effort. Idealists believe in what? Physical world. They said that the physical world is temporal and unimportant, so they consider spiritual world more important. Then let's look at pragmatism. Pragmatism, they believe in human effort. They believe that man has unlimited abilities. Man has unlimited abilities. If only they can use it effectively. The ability that man has is unlimited. That is not limited. The ability of a man is unlimited. If only man can use the ability endowed to them effectively. They believe in modern science and technology. They believe in modern science and technology. They believe that man is essentially a thinker. Just like idealists believe that man is a thinker. I said that most of them has most of these thoughts similar. They have similar in all these thoughts. So pragmatism also believe that man is essentially a thinker and experience. Man learns mostly by experience. Pragmatists believe that man learns mostly by experience. Therefore, man should be given an opportunity to explore his environment. As man learns mostly by experience, he should be given the opportunity to explore his environment. So as he explores, he discovers more things. And as he learns more things, so he also grows. As you are learning more, the man is growing. So man should be allowed to explore his environment and discover things and grow more. That is for pragmatists. They believe that practical work should be included in the curriculum. Practical work should be included in the curriculum. They also recommended science and social sciences. Like Idealists recommended science. These ones also recommended science and social sciences. Examples of pragmatists are John Dewey mostly. We also have James, we have Williams. All these are examples of pragmatists. They recommended that project method should be encouraged in the teaching of the learners, project method. Then we move to the third school of thought in philosophy of education, existentialism. Existentialism. Existentialists condemned technology, just like idealists and pragmatists. They recommended science, but existentialists said no. They condemn technology. They have their reason. They believe in the freedom of man. They believe in the freedom of man. They believe in the freedom of man to behave in the way that pleases him. This existentialism believe that man is created to be free, that man is created to do whatsoever they want to do. So man is created to be free, not to be in bondage of any science or technology. But they complain that science and technology put man's freedom in danger. Existentialists believe that science puts man's freedom in danger. It puts man's freedom in danger. For them, man is born free. That is for the existentialists. They believe that man is born free. They recommended science and non-scientific subjects. The reason being that The reason why they recommended them in that man should should not go deeply on science. Man should not go deeply on science. If man should engage themselves too much in science, man will forget the reason why they exist. To them, man exists to help the less privileged. There must be less privilege in the world. So, according to existentialists, the purpose why man exists is to help the less privileged. If they should go deep in science, they will forget the reason why they exist on earth. That is what existentialists is saying. So man, they are against going deep in technology, and it is true. So man is created to be free, not to be disturbed by science, studying science and going deep in science. You forget the reason why you are existing on the earth. They recommended arts and humanities. They recommended arts and humanities. The next one is naturalist or naturalism. Naturalism. They believe that nature is the best teacher. Naturalists believe that nature is the best teacher. Nature is the best teacher. It excludes whatsoever that does not emphasize nature. Naturalists excludes anything that does not emphasize nature. John Locke's naturalist viewpoint that at birth, by nature, a child is good. John Locke's naturalist viewpoint that at birth, by nature, a child is good, but it is the bad environment that contaminates a child. According to John Locke, one of the naturalist thinkers, he said that at birth, a child is good, but it is the bad environment that contaminates a child. According to them, a child learns by experience through interacting with his environment. I want to expatiate. At birth, a child is good. So if a child finds himself in a bad environment, since it is by nature, child learns by nature, that is by interacting with nature, that's the environment where he finds himself, a child learns. So if a child is born good and a child happens to find himself in a bad environment, in a corrupted environment, that is in a family, that is the first place when a child is born, that is the first interaction he has with the family. If he's born in a corrupt family, the child automatically will be contaminated. That is what the naturalist is saying. But if the child finds himself in a good environment, automatically the child will learn good thing and grow by that good thing. That is what he's saying. So child learns by experience. If a child finds himself in a good environment, automatically it will be good. But by nature, a child is born innocent. A child is born good. A child does not know anything called bad. Racism is an example. Racism is an example of naturalist thinker. He disapproved the use of books at the first stage. At the first stage of learning, he disapproved the use of books for the for the children in the class. He disapproved it, stating that the teacher should first of all discover the child. He should discover the child's learning uniqueness, guide him to discover himself. The teacher should first of all discover the child's learning uniqueness. Every child has their own unique way of learning. Then he guides the child to discover himself before he can now introduce book to the child. And it's true. When you give a child that is in reception 1 book, what will that child learn at that level? But in our schools, we give them, what are they learning? They'll just tear the book. He also said that the teachers should teach by doing. They should teach by doing. Since they learn the best by interacting with the environment, the teachers should teach them by doing. And they should also use instructional materials to make the teaching interesting. Imagine a teacher teaching reception, that is nursery session, primary session, without instructional materials. The teachers, these learners at their age, they learn mostly by seeing. What they see, they grab it easily. What they see you doing, that is what they learn easily. That if the teacher is doing a good thing, the child will copy. If the teacher is doing bad, the teacher will copy. If the teacher is copying, has a good handwriting, the child will copy at this level. If the teacher's handwriting is bad, if the child's handwriting will also be bad. If the teacher's language is bad, negative, the child will also be speaking negative. That is what the naturalists is saying. They believe that nature is the best teacher. As the child come to the world, is good, and there is no bad in the child, is innocent, but the environment he finds himself is what contaminates the child. If he finds himself in a good environment, the child is good. If in a bad, automatically bad. Hope you are following. Then realism, realists. They believe in material world. They believe in material world. They believe in material world. They believe that the material things that we see are the real thing and not the shadow. The material things that you see are the real thing and not the shadow. It's just opposite of idealist. Idealist emphasizes on spiritual world, but idealist is emphasizing on material world, that is physical world. The things you see is like that. There is nothing like shadow. That is idealist, realist. They believe in the material things. They believe that what you are seeing, that is the real thing. You are with your Bible there and you are writing. Realists believe that this Bible you are using is blue, and there is nothing outside blue. That is what they believe. This is blue and it is blue. But idealist says no. Idealists will look at it from another angle. No, you will look at it from the spiritual aspect of it. This thing that you said is blue, I'm not sure it is blue. It is mixed with something else. Let's check it. Idealists will go deep, research, and make sure that that thing you say that is blue is really blue. But for realists, as far as the color is blue, it is blue. I hope you are following. So they believe on the material world. They believe that material things they see, it is the real thing. There is no thing outside the real thing. Practical works should be taught to the learners. They believe that practical works should be taught to the learners. They learn by exploring with their physical environment. Also, they learn by exploring with their physical environment. They discover things by themselves by exploring with the physical environment. So as they explore with their environment, physical environment, they learn more. The recommended science and scientific approach of learning. It also recommended the use of instructional materials, since learning depends on what a child can see. They recommended the use of instructional materials, since learning depends on what a child can see, hear, touch, and smell. Emphasize on the use of instructional material, since learning depends on what a child can see, hear, touch, and smell. And the last school of thought in philosophy of education is essentialism. 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 This school of thought maintains that there are certain essentials which society values or which society gives importance or interest, have interest in. Those things that society values, those things that society have interest in should be the things that should be taught to learners. Of course, now the society value medicine. If you say you are studying medicine, up you in this society. When you mention you are studying education, they will shake their heads for you. Sorry for you. So those things that the society values is what that should be inculcated to the learners. That the things that should be taught to the learners. Examples of essentialist philosophers are Thomas Briggs, B-R-I-G-S, Thomas Briggs. They advocate hard working, endurance, and discipline. They advocate hard working, endurance, and discipline. So far, we have seen some schools of thought in philosophy of education. I hope that is well understood. Idealists, these things I just want to explain before I go to branches of philosophy. It will help you in the later study. So I want to go through it first, so that when you hear idealist in future, you will not be confused. Idealism, pragmatism, existentialism, naturalism, realism, and essentialism. I have few time. Before I continue, I've not given you assignment. Please, let me give you an assignment before we continue. There's still time. Please send this assignment to setengozi.cecilia@yahoo.com. Setengos dot, not D-O-T, dot, Cecilia@yahoo.com. Setengos is spelled as Cengozi. Then you put dot, Cecilia, Cecilia at yahoo.com. I spell it again. Setengos.cecilia@yahoo.com. Cetengozi dot Cecilia CECILIA@yahoo.com. Number 1, explain the concept of philosophy. Explain the concept of philosophy. Concept of philosophy. State 5 importance of philosophy of education. Number 2, state 5 importance of philosophy of education. Please, let's quickly go. Still have some more time. Let's quickly go to branches of philosophy. Branches of philosophy. We have 4 branches of philosophy. 4 branches of philosophy. There are 4 branches of philosophy. 1, metaphysics. Metaphysics. Metaphysics, in bracket, nature of reality. So under metaphysics, we are studying nature, reality. Metaphysics, in bracket, nature of reality. 2, epistemology. Epistemology, in bracket, theory of knowledge. Theory of knowledge, that means anytime ahead of epistemology, you're talking about theory of knowledge. 3, axiology. Axiology, in bracket, theory of value. That means we are studying theory of value under axiology. And then 4, logic. Logic, in bracket, principle of reasoning. Logic, in bracket, principle of reasoning. Let's go to number 1. Metaphysics, nature of reality. Nature of reality. The term metaphysics is derived from a Greek word, metaphysics. The term metaphysics is derived from a Greek word, metaphysics, beyond nature. Beyond nature. Beyond nature. Metaphysics goes beyond scientific questions about the ultimate nature of things. It goes beyond scientific questions about the ultimate nature of things. It deals with the questions which special science, for example, physics, chemistry, and biology, has left unanswered. The questions that physics, chemistry, and biology left unanswered because they couldn't answer it. They left it unanswered. That is what metaphysics want to question. It also concerns itself with man's speculations about the nature of existence, thinking about the nature of existence and the existence of the mind, which is not based on knowledge of what we can learn or experience throughout senses. Metaphysics deals with abstract thinking. Abstract thinking, when you are thinking something that is abstract. Abstract thinking. Something that is beyond imagination. That is metaphysics. Imagine somebody asking question. Okay, we are in the world. And we are in the world. We know that God created man. Then who created God? This is my father. Who is the father of this God you said that created us? That is an example of metaphysics. Asking questions that is beyond nature. Beyond nature. Asking questions, abstract thinking. This is the type of question that this type of thinking that somebody will think and develop madness. Because you can never think it and get it. It is God has done it to that level that nobody knows can have the knowledge of it. The science like physics, chemistry, and biology has studied and could not answer it, and they left it just like that. That is what metaphysics want to study. We have two types of metaphysics. We have ontology and we have cosmology. Ontology and cosmology. Ontology takes the questions, what does it mean to exist? Asking the question, what does it mean to exist? A realist say, to a realist, I've explained, to a realist, to exist means to occupy space and time. And then idealist says it contains the absolute reality in the world of forms, independent of matter, space, and time. And pragmatists believes that existence cannot be ultimately changed and can never be classified. Time. Okay. So how far that is where we're stopping today at metaphysics branch of philosophy of education. So next week, continue from where we are. Remember your assignment, do your assignment and submit. God bless you. Bye.